Okay, let's call this meeting order of the Madison Select Board for Monday, July 12th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Please join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record show all selectmen are present. Letter C, consent agenda warrant number 42, 6/28/21, number 43, 6/28/21, and number 44, 6/30/21. Payroll register number 25, 6/24/21, and number 26, 7/1/21.
I move as read.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the warrant and payroll register as read. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Acceptance of the meeting minutes of June 28, 2021.
Move to accept. Second.
A motion and a second to accept the meeting minutes of June 28, 2021. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor? Motion carries. Old business, Mr. Moody?
None, sir.
Mr. Minton? Mr. Gopian?
None.
Mrs. Webb?
Thank you.
Okay. Items of communication, Mr. Town Manager?
All right, at the next meeting, which will be July 26th, Shirley Bartlett and I would like to have an assessors meeting beforehand, primarily to discuss the impact of raising valuations. We've been talking about this all through the winter and spring with the home sales and whatnot. So by then, Shirley should have all the information in for the valuation of the town. We've got everything settled on Eagle Creek. And so she would like to just show you what the impact would be, how raising values would be offset by lowering the mill rate. Plus, as you'll see tonight in the packets, we received more revenue than we expected. That will also help with lowering the mill rate. So what I want to ask from you is, do you want a full hour to discuss it or a half hour? Do you want to start at 5:30 or 6?
I should start at 5:30, right?
All right. Give you a little extra time.
There.
All right.
You guys got time? Not a working time?
Just me.
Okay, all right.
Every day. We're starting to get some good feedback on the town's matching grant applications. Those applications are due by Wednesday, the 21st. So at the Select Board's meeting on the 26th, there'll be an opportunity to review some of those matching grant applications. This week, 30-day lien notices will be sent out to folks who have outstanding 2020 taxes. We'll probably send out about 240 notices, which is about 50 less than usual, so that's not a bad thing. In your packets, I put a draft of a remote participation policy. I've been watching all the other towns kind of go through this because the state legislature put into law some parameters on having meetings that people in the public can attend by Zoom. I point over there to the laptop, for example, because we have a couple of members of our planning board, Robin Turek and Randy Bliss, who like to sit in and watch meetings. They're also on the finance committee. Starting in August, the state law says everybody's got to go back to in-person. Now, it doesn't really impact you because you've been meeting in person right along. It will affect our planning board, who hasn't met in person in 17 months. And they've been doing a great job. Actually, I think they've been more efficient working remotely than in person, and it's easier for people to join the meetings. So if you don't have a policy, you can't allow people to come in remotely. So every municipality has to establish a policy. So if you say, no, we don't want a policy, then that means it goes back to the old days of pre-COVID that we just have regular meetings, and if people want to show up, they have to show up. But as you've seen over the last year, things like Zoom and other go-to-meeting features allow a little bit more flexibility with people. So most communities are trying to adopt some sort of policy. So that's what this draft is before you. I don't want to take any time out of tonight's meeting to go over it in detail, but I did want to see if you were interested in reviewing it at the next meeting. So I kind of want to see what the consensus of the board is.
I think we should go ahead and do that.
I agree.
Look at it next meeting? Look at it at the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'll add it as an agenda item for the next meeting, and that's all I've got for items of communication.
Yes.
Tim, last meeting you mentioned something about the mill is in Superior Court. Where are we with that? Have they made a decision?
Were you the only one that didn't read the newspaper?
I don't get it.
Or did you get it online?
I don't,
Well, let's
unless
put
my
it,
wife tells me it's there, I don't know it's there.
let's put it in the, let's put it in
So
the
put me
public.
up to date.
We'll put it in the public record, yes. The Maine Supreme Court ruled in the town's favor. The Madison paper case is done. And
So we're done with both of them.
So we have reached a settlement with Eagle Creek, and we are done with Madison paper. We don't owe either of them any money.
Outstanding.
So it's a good position.
That was worth hearing.
Woody,
And everybody else enjoyed hearing that too.
Right.
Woody, what's your email address?
Put him on Zoom.
Do we want these 3 meetings separately, or 3 public hearings separately, or do we want to?
So the way I've kind of thought about this is you've got 3 different properties. You're going to be making, if you, I'm assuming you're going to make the findings that are all 3, but I'd rather do them all separately. So you'd open a public hearing for 24 and
Yep.
then first.
So we'll open a public hearing to determine dangerous buildings for 24 Naomi Avenue. Public hearing is open.
So for 24 Naomi Avenue, I have been in touch with the owner. This is the property that has the poles that are holding it up so it's not going to fall backwards toward the lake. I took some recent pictures. I was over there the other day, and this used to be chock full of stuff. And the Rollins, who owns the property 2 doors down, had been storing a lot of his stuff in there. He has taken it out, and so that's a good sign. I've also been assured by the owner, Jim Rollins, that the building will be torn down. I've gotten some other information about this property, that perhaps another party that owns property next door is in the process of trying to buy it from Mr. Rollins, but they also know that it needs to be torn down, and they don't want the building, they just want the land. So whatever this board decides for this property, I'll have to notify not only the current owner, Mr. Rollins, but also the presumptive new owner. And in your packets, I kind of put the wording of what a notice to correct is for the removal of buildings. And this building meets the criteria to be torn down. In fact, Susan Hathaway, the former code officer, she found it to be unfit for occupancy 2 years ago. So she technically, sometimes we don't use the word condemned, but she condemned it 2 years ago. It's been used only for storage, and it's only gotten in worse shape. So at this point, does anyone on the board have any questions about this property?
Yep, Jim was the value at $8,900.
That's correct.
I question that.
Well,
According to these pictures.
according to the current pictures, but one of the things that you find down there by the lake is that if you're from away, you just keep paying taxes and you don't question it, or if you're trying to sell it.
So if we take that person at their word, we could be dealing with this. I mean, we hope they're going to do that. So I mean, but we should also, if we're going to vote to remove the building, we should have that as in record, correct? Maybe
So-
you want to just take their word that they're going to do that, or
So if you find, based on the evidence that I've provided for you, that this is a dangerous and abandoned building, if you as a board find that, then now you're responsible to take action. And the cleanest action to take is to issue them a notice to correct by removing the building. And the language that's in the middle of that notice that we've used in the past is to remove the building and all other structures from 24 Naomi Avenue, return the lot to an appearance consistent with the abutting properties. No later than, and this is where I left the date blank, to determine tonight if the board wants to define it dangerous, if they want to declare it to be torn down, how much time do you give that party? To your point, you're giving them a deadline.
Yes.
Al, and the people that are purchasing this property, so I was told by those people that they're supposed to have the closing on the 20th, and they know that the building has to be torn down. They were just curious how much time they had to get that building torn down after the purchase.
Okay.
And I told them I'd get back to them, whatever decisions were made here, I'd get back to them and then get back to Tim.
If I was going to recommend a date, I would give them until August 31st. Then you give them about 6 weeks. In this case, maybe five weeks after they own it. But in this particular case, the good sign is the son, Paul Rawlins, has already started taking stuff out. So they don't have to empty the building before they dismantle it.
All right, anything else in the public hearing on this property, 24 Naomi Avenue? Yes.
You might want to consider a little bit more time, only because all the contractors in town are very busy right now, and it'd be too bad for them to not find somebody, you know, in such a short notice. Because most of the dirt work and your construction contractors are at least 2 months out anyways right now. You know, it's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
Would it help to wait until the 20th, till this does go through, or if this purchase doesn't go through, I'm pretty sure it's gonna go through, and then deal with the new owners after that?
Well, I mean,
I'm just asking, would it
I
help?
think if we get to,
I don't
we get to a
care.
point, I mean, I'm not opposed to October 1st either. I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I mean, and would that be more beneficial?
Yeah, that would give them a lot more time, or even,
Right.
you know, September 15th or something, or whatever, just because everybody is very busy right now and having trouble finding help and so on, and it might be not a bad idea.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that either. I mean, I wouldn't either, you know, the end of September or September 15th, but if they're that busy, then the end of September probably would help them a little more. Smith?
If they couldn't get a contractor, is that something that would automatically get extended until they could, beyond the date we give them?
I probably would have to come back to the board with that information. So if we give them a date of October 1st, and nothing has happened by the second meeting in September, then I would have to come back to the board and you would have to grant them an extension. The other caveat of this is if they take no action, if they become obstinate about it and take no action, then the town can enforce the 30-day rule, where if they don't take care of it in 30 days, then the town can pay somebody to tear it down and send them a bill. If they don't pay that bill in 30 days, it goes on the taxes and it can be collected like taxes. We have done that in the past in one case, and we did recoup all of our expenses. It takes time. But in order to do that, you have to have a firm start date from the beginning.
When we vote on this, I mean, I would go along with October 1st. I mean, just to give people some time. And it sounds like this property, they're in the process of, they're moving forward anyways.
The closing's supposed to be the 20th.
Right. I mean, that would give them 2 months to
8 days.
get it out of there. You know? All right, so we'll close the public hearing from 24 Naomi Avenue. We will close it, and we want to take a motion on what to do?
Yes, if the board so chooses, they can move to remove the building, return the lot to the appearance consistent with the abutting structures no later than October 1st, 2021.
Would you like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second to order the building removal, as what Tim stated. Any other questions or any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. We'll move on to open a public hearing for 33 Naomi Avenue. Open.
All right, these notices have signatures required. There's 2 pieces of paper with signatures on the back side. So 33 Naomi is up the road just a little bit. The owner of that property, Craig Woodward. Craig Woodward, he inherited it, and he has just not been up here in about 5 years. They live down in Auburn. He knows that it's deteriorating. Mr. Woodward is a merchant marine, so he is out to sea right now. But his wife, by the name of Kathy Turbine, she has been in contact with us, and in fact, she is actively looking for a contractor to tear it down. I did give her the name of a local contractor. I don't know if they are in agreement with it or not. But again, this is another situation where at this point, they don't seem to be putting up a fight. They seem to be in favor of removing it, tearing it down, and then reusing the lot. The location of this is far enough away from the lake that they could rebuild in the future if they wanted to. They're not right in the shoreline zone.
All right, any other comments on 33 Naomi Avenue? All right, seeing all the comments, we'll close the public hearing. Look for a motion to remove.
So this could be a very similar motion to the one that was just made for 24.
I'd like to make a motion again.
All right, we have a motion and a second to order the building removal at 33 Naomi Avenue.
Do you want to use the same date?
Same
October
date,
1st?
yeah. Let's keep it consistent. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. And we will open public hearing for 32 Hayden Street.
Mr. Chairman, everybody use blue pen like that?
I noticed Tim took the opportunity to get his picture in here.
What's that?
Took the opportunity to get your picture in this thing.
Oh, that reflection?
Yeah.
No, I asked if everybody used blue paint out there.
Anybody what now?
Everybody used blue paint?
It was on sale back in the day.
All right, so
So this property at 32 Hayden Street, I was in contact with the owner, Roland's Elaine, probably about 3 or 4 years ago. He does not live at this property. This property's been deserted for several years. All the windows in the front porch are broken. And if you see by one of the side shots, it looks like the sill is pretty much rotten and crumbling into the ground. He currently lives with relatives on Heald Street, and so we have sent him mail to Heald Street. He's the only one of these 3 that has not responded, so I have not heard from him. I'm assuming he's getting our letters. We did the process of sending him the notice, certified mail, and all that. So on that end of it, we've done our due diligence. But I have not heard back from him, so I don't know what the end result is going to be. He hasn't come forward and say, "Oh yeah, I'll tear it down." It's a little bit of a bigger structure than the other 2, so probably a little bit more costly to do so. He also is very free with his yard to allow anybody to park extra cars in his yard, and so that's another issue that we're trying to deal with there. But regardless of the fact that we have not been able to get a hold of him or hear back from him, I still recommend that the board take some action on the property.
Mr. Moody,
Tim, is there a reason for him not to get, is he elderly or something? And
I
is he had
don't-
some problems that he can't get back to us or something?
I'm not aware of any. I'm not aware. Again, this is another one that Susan Hathaway, the former code officer, she did have conversations with him, so I knew that, you know, he's around and available.
All right.
She didn't seem to indicate that he was not able, so.
All right, any other comments in the public hearing? I guess my only question here, if we can't get a hold of him, is for this property, is October 1st going to be okay? If we have to impose the tear down rule, or we can't get anybody anyways?
I think you have to have a deadline to start with.
Yep.
And certainly, I will make the effort to try to track down the individual, and let them know what the board has decided to do. And again, if it gets to be late September, we haven't heard back from anything, then we can come to the board and revisit it. But hopefully this will, get somebody's attention.
Okay, any other questions in the public hearing? I will close the public hearing. We'll look for a motion on 32 Hayden Street.
I'll make the motion that we go through
Second.
I have a motion and a second to order the removal of the building at 32 Hayden Street. And as for our last couple, we go with October 1st as our deadline.
Yep.
Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. We'll move on to department head reports.
We keep it up.
I have the fire report. I don't remember seeing the sheriff's office.
Well, I didn't get an email from the sheriff's office till about 3 o'clock this afternoon, so I just forwarded that out before the meeting, but there is a report in your inbox.
Okay. Road commission.
Not too much, everybody's been on vacation the 4th of July week. Week before that, there was only 2 of us up the garage, so not a lot's gotten done since the last meeting. Everybody's enjoying the nice weather. The chip seal project, as Mr. Mooney and I were speaking about earlier, if anybody was wondering about the pile of rock up to the garage, it is for the project, and a lot more stone had gotten hauled up there than anticipated, so 3/4 of it's been removed and gone back where it belongs.
And we have a main time on the paving projects.
Preble Avenue will be done next Wednesday and Thursday, and the other roads will be done in August, which are Ames Hill, Orchard Road, and the Russell Road. And Lower Nickel Street is being done tomorrow. And the chip seal project on the golf course road wasn't on the list as of Friday, but I'm guessing probably the 1st of August. Any other questions?
What about the truck? Has that been ordered or
Haven't even started yet.
haven't started yet?
No, we did order a new 1-ton back in April, I believe,
Yep.
or March, and I talked to Corey Height last week, and he had no idea when it was going to be here. So, it's like everything else, it's getting hard to get stuff.
Mhm.
So, even the truck does get ordered, it will be a year out anyways.
Okay. Budget review, revenue.
Thank you. So I just wanted to touch on the one part that's fairly complete. There's be a little more revenue to come, but this is the positive. The state has seen more revenues this year than they anticipated, and most all municipalities have as well. So if you remember last year, we didn't quite know what to budget for excise tax and all that, so we came in at what I think was a fairly conservative number. Just for excise tax alone, we budgeted $725,000. As of the end of June, we had collected $936,000 in excise tax. That's the first time I've seen it over 900,000, so I imagine it's probably the first time ever that the town has collected over $930,000 just in excise taxes. That's not everybody buying new cars, but keep in mind, even if you buy a used Silverado pickup truck, the sticker price on that thing is still $40,000, and that's what your excise tax is based on. And so, because of the climbing sticker prices, I've always held the belief that excise receipts are going to stay up north of 700,000. So that was big. Just about every other category we had, we exceeded our expectations. So on your sheet that you have in your packet there, you have the yellow line at the top. The first column is the 5-year average, which was 1,098,000. 2020, we took in 1,057,000. We budgeted 979, and we've taken in 1.22 million. So about $240,000 more than we anticipated. Most of that is excise tax, but that's also money we get from the local roads program through the highway department, money that we get for fees for code enforcement, money that we get for the small amounts of rent that we have in this building and the tower. You add all that up, and that's what we've exceeded by 200,000 plus for this year. The next line down is main revenue sharing, and that's really turning a corner for municipalities. Back during the previous governor's administration, main revenue sharing was really squeezed. You see our 5-year average was only 288,000 for main revenue sharing. We budgeted 592. We received $725,000 this year in the bank from main revenue sharing. Revenues were higher than they anticipated. They have given us a target figure of 695 for the coming year, and that's the number that you'll use to help set the tax rate when you do that as assessors. So revenue sharing, very good. Betty fluctuates up and down depending on who's got what in Betty reimbursement. Homestead exemption, we will get another $100,000 probably in the next couple of months from the homestead exemption. So that will just add to last year's revenues. So what this does for us is it helps take the pressure off the fact that at town meeting, the voters authorized taking $400,000 from fund balance to, not raise taxes and do the equipment purchases and the paving that needed to be done. Well, we've got almost $400,000 in excess revenue this year, so that helps even out that fund balance, so that when you come to the budget next year, you've already replaced the money that you've pulled ahead. So that's a good position to be in once we get our June 30th statement from the auditors. The other thing I'll mention is you have tax collections at a rate of about 96%. That's 96% of all the people that we collected the taxes for 2020. So those lien notices that are going out, that's just a small portion. That's 240 notices out of 3,300 taxpayers. So it's, whether it's the federal relief money that came through, maybe people use that to get caught up on their taxes, whatever it is, we've been in a very fortunate position this year with revenues across the board.
That's awesome.
It is good. It is good news.
Moving forward, in reading what's happened in the legislature in the last couple of weeks, they said they were putting more into the homestead exemption. Is that for the next one?
Shirley and I talked about that today. I can't remember. I think they did add money to the homestead exemption to reimburse towns 100%. Right now, they only reimburse you 70%.
Right.
So that will be a big difference. And Shirley and I both think that it's not for this fiscal year, but next fiscal year. So
because we put in, you know that off the top of your head, for that 30%, they give us the money back for 70% of it, correct?
That's correct. That's
so
what
30% comes out of our budget.
That's correct.
So do we know what that would be?
It would net us a gain of about another $150,000. So, and that, it's for years the homestead exemption program has been one of those where, the state legislature puts money in this pocket, but they reach around and take money out of that pocket, because it used to be 50%, and it was kind of crazy for municipalities. But so I am forecasting still a fairly conservative number for the setting the tax rate. If you look at that sheet of paper, that's what that number all the way over to the right is. that 1,440,000. That's what I would recommend that we use to set the tax rate. That's up about $60,000 from last year. I'm not gonna jump up and say we're gonna get $900,000 in excise tax every year. I'm gonna wait and see. Because, case in point, if people can't get new vehicles, that's gonna slow down car sales for a while. So, that's just my hunch. Any other questions on revenues? Because I have a couple other things to just bring to your attention. So, there's going to be two categories this year where we overran the budget. One of them is general assistance, which was kind of expected. We budgeted about $15,000 for general assistance. We spent about $18,000. That has an exemption in state law that doesn't require any action from you or from town meeting. If you overrun general assistance, you overrun general assistance. The state will reimburse you 70% of your general assistance spending. With COVID and with situations that were just out of our control, we overspent that line. So that will show up when we do our final review of the budget for 2021. That will show up in the red. The other line that went over was public utilities, which is stormwater treatment, hydrants, electric streetlights, and waste management. And the waste management bill was $30,000 higher than we budgeted for. And we discussed this with the previous board going through the winter time, that waste management costs were rising a lot faster than we budgeted for. We budgeted for $230,000, and that's just, well, that's the front gate and the back gate. We budgeted $230,000, we came in close to $260,000. Now next year we've budgeted for $260,000, so we're hoping that we catch up. And that's why when we did our budget discussions, we had that big increase to the waste management. So I think the net difference in that whole article is going to be around $22,000, $23,000, $24,000. We're working to keep it under 25 because town meeting allows you as the select board to move from the general fund up to $25,000 to cover an overage, so we don't have to call a special town meeting. So even though we are going to have this overage in public utilities, town meeting gives you the authority to deal with it at this level. So that will be coming to you at the next meeting. And we've tried to make the adjustments in this coming budget that we're in right now so that we don't run into this next year with waste management. So those are two things that are coming your way.
All right. Any questions on that for the town manager? What board's concerned?
None, sir.
What? Go?
Just one, next meeting, can we talk about setting the interest rate for loans and things like that?
So yeah, we do have to do that at the beginning of the fiscal year, yes.
Yeah.
So thank you. I'll add it to the list.
The only thing I was gonna say, we had one of our deputies with another deputy resuscitate a gentleman that had an accident, I believe, in Towney or someplace.
Yes.
And could we send something on our behalf to them to say thank you and job well done, just a letter?
We certainly will. You know, we spend the money to get these AED machines, which are basically the things that kind of shock your system back, and you wonder if they ever work. Well, this gentleman had a heart issue while he was driving, and by the time the deputies got there, he had been considered dead. They used the AEDs, did CPR, and brought him back to life, and he's at the hospital in critical but stable condition.
Yeah.
So
I think
we can certainly recognize
something on our behalf that we can sign maybe the next meeting.
Okay.
And citizens concerns.
Okay.
Good. Looking for motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. We adjourn at 7:04.